Hey guys, it's great to be here again. I really appreciate the opportunity. I enjoy talking about photography, and my topic today actually is the most popular discussion on in the news relative to photography, and the most controversial as well. So you may or may not agree with everything I say tonight. We'll see, but definitely, hopefully it'll be thought provoking. That's the intent. Um, So AI, that's artificial intelligence, okay? And artificial intelligence is actually non-intelligent machine learning. I'm going to show you a lot of exhibits, a lot of images tonight. Um, Unless I tell you so, all of the images are AI generated, okay? And you may wonder how I'm going to determine what is arguably a photograph or what is arguably artificially generated. So I'm going to give you my definition of photography. Now, I've been encouraging other club members to start thinking about what their definition of photography is, and same goes for clubs as a whole. Personally, I think of photography as a process commencing with recording reflected or emitted light from the real world on light sensitive media. So it could be film, it could be digital. Um, I think we're on the verge of a sea change in our perception of photography. And when I say sea change, I'm talking about a profound or notable transformation. I should tell you that, and maybe you know this, that artificial intelligence has been around for a while. It's been a recognized academic discipline since 1956. And the description at that time was perceiving, synthesizing, and inferring information demonstrated by machines, which essentially mean computer systems, okay, as opposed to intelligence displayed by humans. So after a couple of decades of downtime, which they refer to as winter, we're now in innovation and regulation phase. So this evening, I'm going to give you a taste of my evolving thoughts on AI's impact on the art of photography. And to do that, I'm going to borrow the title of a movie back in 1956, which is, I know, way before most of your memory bank, perhaps, but in any event, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly starred Clint Eastwood, okay? And the reason I'm going to use this title is because, in fact, there's a fair bit of good, but also lots of bad and lots of ugly at the present time with regard to AI. What I did to get this particular image, because it's AI generated, was to type in what's called a prompt. Okay, it's a text prompt. Clint Eastwood, desert scene, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And this is what I got. Now, I got to compare that with the actual photograph that was used to promote the movie, which you're looking at on the screen on the left. So it's not the same, but you know what? Look at the detail in that image on the right. It's pretty good. You've probably been told by maybe various speakers or your friends and clubs that if your photograph kind of tells a story or coincides with a story, that's a good thing. So I'm going to start off by telling you a story. I went down to Los Angeles. I'm actually truly from Los Angeles. I've been in Vancouver almost 50 years. I married a lady whose family's from Toronto, and this was a great compromise between living in Vancouver was a great compromise between Los Angeles and Toronto. In any event, what I did when I was down there was I wanted to check out drive-in theaters, which used to be very popular when I was growing up. They're few and far between, and the ones that are still constructed are not necessarily being used for movies anymore. I found one that was hosting a mid-century automobile exposition, and I went there kind of when they were closing down. It was just over a week period, and so I was lucky to be there. And I spoke with the fellow that was in charge. He was actually in the projection booth, which is the only building on these vast areas of asphalt that face a giant screen. And so I said, you know what I'd like to do is to take a photograph inside one of the old cars, if that's okay. He says, yeah, sure, that's okay. And I said, but actually, I'd like to be in a car that's facing the screen, and I'd like you to. Here's a slide. I brought a 35 millimeter slide. I'd like you to project this slide on to the screen. He looked at me and said, "Are you crazy? I don't know if I can do that." And and I said, "Well, I'm from Canada." And all of a sudden, he said, "Oh, okay, let me see if I can do that." So just a hint, right, guys? If you're traveling anywhere in the world and you say you're from Canada, it's generally a positive thing. So here's the I'm going to show you the image that I got, which was interesting. You know what? How did I get this? What I did was I put in a text prompt. This is in a program called Midjourney. Okay, and I typed in. I know typing is an old word, but I keyboarded in inside old car, front row, drive-in theater, looking directly at the screen. That's what I got. Now, truth be told, I inserted the title slide of my talk into the screen afterwards, okay? But I just wanted to give you a taste here of what you can do with a simple text prompt in one of these programs. So let's start off by just mentioning briefly, there is lots of good in AI. Just think about the AI assisting camera controls and time-saving features in software, and I'll go through a list in just a moment. But it's been around for a few years now, kind of sneaking up on us, okay? There's bad, okay? Creating a photorealistic AI images and pretending they're photos, that's not necessarily a good thing, okay? And often it's a bad thing, could be nefarious. And there's ugly stuff like deep fake images of discrimination, privacy violations, copyright theft. Imagine this, imagine non-consensual deep fake images, deep fake text, voice, video, and even images from brainwaves, which, by the way, I know sounds insane, but I've seen some images from brainwaves. Just between you and me, I got to tell you, the last thing I want anybody to visualize is what my little boy brain sees sometimes, okay? The point is, these could be separate or combined. And as we move forward, and probably not a long time in the future, we're going to see a lot of fake images. I mean, I know where you guys are. I mean, just imagine what's going to happen with the upcoming US election, okay? So what I've been doing is I've been reading and keeping track of a number of journals, online, offline. People have been sending me stuff, and literally every day I'm modifying the presentation. Is generative AI destroying the internet? Trust in a post-generative world. These are from Forbes. Quote, the axiom, don't believe everything you read on the internet, could soon evolve into trust nothing unless verified. In such a world, provenance and verification becomes paramount. And I have a little note down there to say, easier said than done. If this is the problem, it's not so simple. It's complex. So we've got a photographer by the name of Ed Vorosky. Some of you may know him. He's got this on one of his websites is AI, the end of photography, with an arrow that's pointing to this lady saying that's not a real photo. Is photography safe from AI is the question. Well, those are my words on the right. Yes and no, okay? It's a combination, and I'll mention a little bit about that. And wouldn't it be nice if you could tell clearly what was machine generated and what was an actual photograph, like the half of image on the right, okay? In this particular case, both of these halves of this single image are AI generated with text prompts. This is August 21st, so it's fairly recent to today, 2023. A federal judge rules AI images cannot be copyrighted, as contrasted to photographs, okay? So just a couple of quotes. While a camera may generate only a mechanical reproduction of a scene, it does so only after the photographer develops a mental conception of the photograph. The reason I wanted to say that is because the fellow who was suing to get a copyright, and this started last year, the lawsuit was placed, was comparing cameras to machines, saying, well, a camera is a machine, so how come a computer is not a machine? You get what I'm trying to say. The Supreme Court, this is the Supreme Court now in the US, ruled that there was no doubt that protection can be extended to photographs as long as they are representative of original intellectual conceptions of the author. In other words, currently, they only look at human-generated images as potentially copyrightable. The Copyright Office, this is a different group now, the Copyright Office clarified that AI-assisted material could qualify for protection if a human selected or arranged it in a sufficiently creative way that the resulting work constitutes an original work of authorship. Well, so far, to my knowledge, there isn't a single example of that happening that legally received a copyright. If I'm wrong, that's fine. I encourage you to keep me informed in either after this presentation is over or as we move along. I'd love it if we stayed in touch because I'm learning too. The reason I teach, by the way, is because it's one of the best ways to learn. Okay. So here's an article, AI generated art, the ethical implications and debates. This is in March of this year. So I won't read all these, okay, but there are benefits. One example for a benefit to AI is that it offers new artistic opportunities. There are drawbacks, like a lack of a human touch and emotion. There are ethical implications, and I note here in yellow, transparency and accountability, because who is actually the author if in fact an AI image was generated by scraping the internet and taking bits and pieces of literally billions, in case of Midjourney, 5.6 billion images, and then deciding on how to put them together in one unique way, because no two images generated by AI so far are exactly the same. And then finally, lots of debate, all right? For instance, the dangers and risks of AI art. So what I did to simplify the presentation, I put a bunch of arguably dangerous things up on the screen here. I want to start off by just mentioning that the human brain processes images 60,000 times faster than text. That's like, I don't even know how to describe it other than that quote, okay? It takes between 100 and 400 milliseconds to blink. A millisecond, there's 1,000 milliseconds in a second. So 400 milliseconds is just shy of half a second, all right? So from a tenth of a second to less than half a second to blink. But it only takes 13 milliseconds, that's 13 thousandths of a second, to process a picture. We say process in Canada, okay. You know, that's, I don't know how to describe it, except to tell you that's coming from a science text. This is like, I'm not making this stuff up. Okay, so what do we have here? Upper left, Obama and Angela Merkel, right? Cavorting at the beach. There's a whole series of these, right? That didn't really happen. That's not a real picture. Ukraine President Zelensky actually put out a video. He didn't, this is fake, a deep fake, put out a video last year saying that the Ukrainian military should lay down their arms and surrender. Then we have scammers using AI images to profit from terrible events like the Turkey-Syria earthquake. On the right, of course, we got to have the current president of the US in a hotel room with a lady who is not his wife. And I'm not sure who she is, but they're in a hotel room somewhere. So that's, again, AI generated. Lower left, that's a real photo, but it's a photo of the FBI arresting a pedophile who was using AI generators to create child abuse images. Just terrible stuff. The one below Zelensky there, though, that's interesting. There are people that are creating what look like drone photographs from the sky looking down, right? That are showing troop movements. And then they're showing them in two separate countries that are adjacent to each other, trying to start a war. That's unbelievable. But I mean, this is true what's happening. You maybe heard of the fake bombing of the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., which caused a dip in the stock market. It finally did recover, but it caused a big deal, a panic. By the way, that is, those of you who've been to Washington, D.C., that is not the Pentagon there in the lower middle picture. So sometimes you can tell when something's fake, but remember, if somebody's looking at an image very briefly, they don't analyze them for that purpose. Then we have, they have Trump kissing Dr. Fauci, okay? And I put that banner from another article, AI or not. And this is a free web app that claims to detect AI-generated photos. That would be fantastic. You just put the image in, program, online, it's free, and it'll tell you. So I've been using that. I'm going to show you the results I've gotten as we move near the conclusion of my presentation. But the problem with it, according to the New York Times, is that if you alter the resolution or noise or grain in an image, it can throw off that program. It won't work. Well, the images that I've been putting into it, I'm not altering resolution or noise or grain, just to let you know. The final one on the right is a photograph. Pope Francis is warning about the dangers of AI. Okay, I subscribe to a journal called AI Business. Hyper-realistic AI-generated content may have a stronger persuasive effect on target audiences than content previously fabricated without the benefit of AI technology. Well, yeah, I mean, this is by the way, this is a periodical, this AI Business, that that is very pro AI. I mean, there are businesses that are using AI and they're making money off of it. So this already is pretty interesting that they put this in there. This is August 24th. That's today, isn't it? I think. So like, this is as current as I could get. Images upstage text. So this is what I'm going to read to you is the results of a Penn State University study with scientists. This is not somebody just writing an article. People instinctively react immediately without thinking to visuals and then share them globally. Over 70% of people who share text do not read it prior to sharing. They're sharing it based on the image, okay? And I'm just pointing out the problem. Well, we're not going to spend all day talking about it, but a couple more here. Fake AI images of Paris covered in trash go viral, August 22nd, like 2 days ago, right? But also some good stuff, okay? People are using Photoshop's generative fill to restore old photos. Photo on the right is actually not a photo, it's AI generated. But the one on the left is an actual photo. It's pretty good. What it did, it filled in the missing pieces, so to speak, of the guy's jacket. The fox is in the hen house. No photos are beyond, excuse me, not no, AI photos are beyond the point of no return. Now, this is back in February, but the reason for this I wanted to show you is because the picture on the left, the drone photo of the beach, won a photographic award. Great, except it was found out that that was AI generated, text generated. So it was a fake photo. The two ladies on the right were getting thousands of likes on social media sites until the, I'll say artist, admitted that they were not photographs. And of course, a lot of people got really ticked off, but that's what's happening. Okay. Then there's the other side of the coin. Judges are getting so nervous about giving awards to fake photos that they're overcompensating. So you may have seen this if you get Petapixel magazine on online. Real photo disqualified from photography contest for being AI. That's the image on the right. That's actually real. part of the reason they think that it was misjudged was because one of those three people is a mannequin. Okay. In any event, Tony Northrup, another guy who writes a lot online about photography, generally respected. Okay. Quote, the real damage of AI will be the false positives, those crazy, gorgeous, shocking moments we photographers spend our lives waiting for will be presumed fake and dismissed. Welcome to hell. Those are not my words, okay? But those are real words. So here's the thing, guys. As was indicated in that wonderful introduction, I wish my wife was here to hear that. In any event, actually, I wish my kids were here to hear that. In any event, I'm a teacher. I was actually trained to teach architectural design in college. I got a master's degree in that, and to be a teacher. And I thought I'd be a better teacher if I got some real world experience as an architect. So I tried that, and it went better than I expected. So that was why I spent 4 decades as an architect. Oh, now I'm back teaching again, as was mentioned. So I'm all about teaching. I'm all about education. So I'm going to show you tons of images, but I'm going to use lots and lots of words. I hope that's okay. I know that there's this phrase that says a picture is worth 1,000 words. I'm sure you've heard that. I actually think a great phrase is worth 1,000 images. Okay, please don't leave. I will promise to show you lots of images. I got to show you a few words first. Let's just delve into the good. I'm going to give you a taste of the good because there's a lot of it. Let's just start on the right column there. Eye autofocus. You know, you've heard of that in new cameras. Pretty fantastic. Facial recognition, AI image stabilization, sky replacement, environment recognition, and enhancements. What that means is you can take a photograph of a person and some cameras will allow you to automatically, what's the word? I'm thinking of the word, to the background, be out of focus, okay? You may or may not like that feature, but that's using AI, as all these are. Object selection for portraits. Oh my gosh, all of the new masking features in Lightroom or Photoshop and other programs are pretty good. It's really time savings, and they're wonderful, I think. I'm going to skip the red ones for now. Go to the left column. Auto frequency separation. That is brand new. If you don't know what auto frequency separation is, don't worry about it right now. Auto skin shine retouch. Well, surely you photographed where you get a person's face and part of the face, maybe there's a sun reflection off of it, and that's called skin shine. Very tough to solve. It's doable. In fact, everything that AI does can be done and has been done by photographers, but they have to really be good at what they're doing. They have to have the right technique, and they have to spend a fair bit of time doing it. I'll skip that for now. So look at this. This is a news bulletin here, not too long ago. 1.8 trillion photos are taken every year worldwide. I can't fathom what that means, except if I tell you that it's almost 60,000 photos per second. That means something to me, or 5 billion a day. Of those pictures, 92.5% of photos are taken with smartphones and only 7% with cameras. So just letting you know, and I'll tell you why that's the case. And well, I'll tell you why I'm deciding to share that with you. So I've been using Adobe Firefly, who, by the way, in the first 3 months, this free program, okay, to anyone, there have been 1 billion images already gone through that program. It's online, so that's why they can add up the number of images. So if you want to know what's coming in computational photography, if you want to know what's coming in photography, look at computational programs. That's the term that camera phones use for AI, right? Computational. So portrait mode, panorama mode, high dynamic range mode, long exposure mode. Well, we can do that in cameras. I'm sure you maybe done a lot of that. But this is all in camera. It'll come out that way with one click. Okay. There's other things on here. Oh, focus stacking, being able to instead of having to take a whole bunch of images and then put them in other software to have everything sharp, if that's a desire, it can be done in a camera phone. Okay, so I have a confession to make. I enjoy the process of creating a photograph. I find it pleasurable. That pleasure is only exceeded by the process of learning and teaching, which then results in more learning. As the process of photography becomes more and more automated through AI text prompts at an increasingly rapid rate of change, I might add, the art and pleasure and appreciation of photography is, for me, diminished. I'm not saying that's the case for everybody. So I have a question. This is my question, but it's to everybody, including myself. Are machine-generated images driven solely or partially by text prompts? Photographs. Are they photographs? This is an example here on the left of a text-prompted image that I did in Midjourney. I put in photographer. I got this. Yeah. So here's what I did. I teach, well, you know that already. I teach workshops, and if I generally would go to a hotel, rent like a meeting room, and so I decided to put in a text prompt: large conference meeting room with men and women, including an elephant. Well, I put in men and women because generally these programs are biased towards men. But we'll talk a bit about that as well. So the question is, the only thing missing from this room for me is a great screen, because I love to have projections, and I'm a guy, so like bigger is better. But why the elephant? Well, you know why the elephant. It's the elephant in the room, right? It's ethics. It's the ethics of artificial intelligence in photography and beyond. Here's an example. Do you remember phone booths? I don't know that they're around very much now. I haven't seen one in a long time, but now they're coming back as AI-powered phone booths. This is an August 4th article, okay, of this year. So here's an example: an Asian MIT student, so, MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, asks AI for a professional headshot. And she is an Asian. On the left, that's the photo. On the right is what she got from the machine. Nice picture, except they changed her race. Now she's white. I'm laughing, but that's one example of one of the issues, okay? Given a desire for creativity, exploring other disciplines can generate notions and ideas that can be applied to your own chosen passion. Okay, in this case, for me, and I think for you guys, our passion is photography. So I want you to consider strategic foresight or horizon scanning. Those are very highbrow words. Basically, they mean research, experimentation. Okay, consider research, which could include both text and image AI generators. Okay, in addition to all other forms of data collecting. The idea is not to just search for honesty, accuracy, and truthfulness, which of course you're not going to get with AI. Okay, that's fine. The key is to be searching for creative, artistic inspiration. All right. So for me, AI, I've changed the definition or the meaning of the letters A and I to artistic inspiration. It has to do with exploring. In this case, for me, I admit I explored Firefly, Photoshop's generative AI, which is in beta form, and Midjourney. Those three are considered very kind of leading edge AI image generators, at least for today. It may change in the future. I subscribe to 36 periodicals online and in print. Research finds AI deepfaked faces look more real than genuine photos. So this is earlier this year. Which one of these do you think is real, and which do you think is fake? Well, you know what I'm going to say, right? Whoops. They're both fake. They're both fake. So it's an example of however you want to take it. For me, it was like, oh my gosh, it's like I thought the guy on the left was real, and of course he's not real. AI generated images, a threat to the authenticity of photography. That was photo.com, Digital Camera World in July of this year. I can't decide if Photoshop's generative fill is a threat or just frivolous fantasizing. So here we go. I'm going to show you what I'm doing. So we got, I teach architectural photography among other genres. The definition of architecture for me, whether it's indoors or outdoors, are envelopes of volumetric spaces, envelopes for people and their activities. So I decided, what if I just work on getting diagrams instead of pretending that I'm going to get photographs? Well, I got this diagram of people inside of an envelope. I thought, that's good. I can use that just as a, quick explanation when I'm explaining to people definition of architecture. I teach color. So there are lots of different color wheels, okay? But this is an RGB color wheel. It's additive color. It's a painter's wheel, all the same thing, okay? Because we're working with, when I say painter's wheel, you're working with media. It's not digital, it's paint. There's another word for that. I can't think of it right now, but it's a 12 color wheel. So I figured, well, how am I going to top that? Well, what if I do a 32 color wheel? Oh, and I want a fancy frame around it. I'm not saying it's valid. I'm just telling you, I'm exploring, I'm playing. It's okay. That I think it's important. I want to try to see if I can figure out something here. So I decided, okay, what if I decide I'm going to accept photorealism? If I'm teaching photography to, say, beginner photographers, you guys know this, but like light is a big deal, right? Celebrating light. So I thought, well, what if I go through an entire day and just show examples of different types of light? So I'm going to show you a series of images. I'm going to go fairly quickly. It'll be 2 to 4 times what you need because you know how fast you can see an image. We already talked about that. So maybe it'll be half a second, okay? But just look at the images. There's a little bit of text. Don't worry about the text. That helps me decide what to say. So I used as a prompt, morning blue hour light. Sunrise first light. Morning golden hour. Mid-morning light. Midday light. Afternoon golden hour light. Sorry, it didn't fit. Sunset last light. So I got some urban examples, some landscape examples, an interior example. Evening blue hour light. Late evening light. Midnight moonlight. Late night starlight. I didn't type in Milky Way, but that's what came up. So that's all the text prompt. Some people think to do a text prompt, you need to write a book. No. Just a couple of words can make a big difference. Then I thought, well, okay, what if I accepted that? I would tell the students that they're not real photographs, but it's a teaching tool. Then I thought, well, what if I photographed opportunities I will likely not experience? Given my age, And given my, I guess, my physical abilities, okay, it would be great. I'd like to go to the top of Mount Everest and photograph. That'd be awesome. What about the opposite? You know what the opposite of top of Mount Everest is, don't you? It's the Mariana Trench. It's like a mile or more deeper below the surface of the water, the ocean, than the Mount Everest is high. Like, it's unbelievable. Very few people have ever been down there, but that's a photograph of it. Fake, but you got my idea. Oh, Halley's Comet. Now, Halley's Comet is visible. It comes once every 76 years, and it was last here in 1986, and I missed it because I live in Vancouver, and we are in a rainforest, and it was cloudy. That's my excuse. But it's coming again in 2061. I don't think that I'm going to be around for that one. So I thought, okay, I'll put that in, see what I get. And finally, I would like to go. Wouldn't it be, how many would you like to go with me to walk along the Amazon river bank? Not in a boat, that's too easy. And photograph crocodiles. Well, here's the thing. The reason I put this in here is because if I tried to do that, my wife would probably leave me. So I want to stay married. That's the reason I'm not doing that. What can I say? So we have Mike Schaffner. I don't know if you know him. He's a Texas photographer, has a blog. I respect his work. His quote is, "AI images are not photos or paintings, regardless of how much they may look like them. It's not an issue of quality. It's an issue of misrepresentation. And misrepresentation is fraud. It's as simple as that." So, Texans call it like it is. And he's one who's not very excited about AI. So I asked the question again, how do we incorporate AI into our photographic pursuits? And I'm in search of inspiration. So I figured, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to not put in a text prompt that requests a specific scene or image. I'm going to put in a text prompt based on what I teach. So one of the things I teach is fine art photography. I teach creativity, okay? And what I say is the secret to creatively enhancing your photography is to enjoy the journey of being curious, feeling free to express your imagination, and be willing to play. Yeah. So I put that in a text prompt, and I got something I never expected to get. I thought this gives me a great idea, because what if I could find a playroom and find somebody who let me photograph young kids, which may not be possible because I look a little scary. This would be the inspiration for an actual photograph. So by the way, you see the bias here. I wrote down gender, race, and career and religion. They are all entered into how these algorithms are written. That's another story. However, I wanted a different gender and ideally a different race. So I typed this in, or I put this text in over and over and over again, okay? In Midjourney, you get four different versions when you put a text prompt in. I probably got up to around 48 before I finally got something else. I got a young black girl, cutie pie. I was happy about that. Look at her right hand. Count the number of fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fingers and a thumb. This is not normal. This is the problem with some early generated AI images. It's getting better, but I want to show you this because this is the issue. So I kept trying again, maybe another 24, 36. I finally got, it looks kind of like the same kid, different clothing, similar colors, and more of a normal hand on the right hand. Okay. So here's the thing. I don't have a great image for you, but I was at recently a birthday party for a grandchild of a friend. And I went to their house and the kids were playing. So I thought, oh, this is a chance. Maybe I'll get something. So I'm on my way down to the ground. It takes me time. I can't get down as fast as I used to. Okay. So I'm crouching down. And just as I get close to the ground, I hear the grandmother, it's her house. She yells out, "It's time for birthday cake." Oh, these kids were gone, like they were gone fast. Then I spent a fair bit of time, even more time, standing up again, which is hopefully it's never videoed because it's like a whole thing. What can I say? I took so long to stand up, I almost missed my piece of birthday cake. However, my point is it could be inspiration for photography, okay? One more example of this type. I put in this case, my description of what the subject of a photograph is. The subject of a photograph is not just an object in an otherwise kind of indiscriminate background or context. The subject of a photograph is the entire field of view, edge to edge. It's the whole scene. If you're a painter, you put paint on the entire canvas. It's thoughtful, every single stroke. Well, it should be thoughtful. Same with photography. You should be looking at scenes where you're happy with the whole scene, or you're going to crop, which is maybe okay. But my point is, I put that, and I got this image. I thought, whoa, I don't know what this is, but I don't know if I'm looking through a lens or maybe it's a viewfinder. But there's kind of a sharp image in the middle, the landscape, and then it looks like a very similar or the same image in the background, defocused, out of focus. Okay. I thought, whoa, geez, maybe I could do that. So here's the thing. I actually have a lens that creates a round circular photograph, right? It's called a fisheye lens. And this is the inside of I love architecture. You know, what can I say? This is the inside of the City Hall in San Francisco. And so I made that photo. Then it's a Canon zoom lens. So it goes from, I think it's 8.5 to 15 millimeters on a full frame sensor. And I took the same position. I took a rectilinear fisheye, which is the background, and I defocused it. Okay. Then I thought, well, I mean, do I have to do that? No, I could make it in focus. So this idea of what I'm showing you here, which is arguably a photograph because it was taken with camera, a digital sensor, and processed in software, Lightroom, and that idea was born from playing with AI. Okay. So I want you to think about something. What's happening? I've been speaking to camera clubs across North America. And the issue that's coming up is a question of what to do with contests. So I want you to consider the very realistic current notion of a photographic competition or gallery display, either one. Submit, these are I'm making this up, but the idea is the program comes out logically, submit a digital photo described via various file formats, either processed using creative algorithms in camera or in software on your computer or accessed online. Well, that's fine. But no text prompts allowed. You can't put in words and have it come back and argue that it's a photograph. And on top of that, if the judges are questioning it, or if it's going to win something, it may require you to submit the original raw files. Okay. You probably read the clip on the left. Photo contests are woefully unprepared for artificial intelligence. So this is the biggest issue for photo and camera clubs. So here's what I did. I'm going to create a series. I'm going to call it Hallucinations. And I'm going to deal with artistic inspiration. That's my AI. And I'm going to celebrate symmetry. via compositing. Compositing is allowed. It's if they're all photographs, okay? So this is the simplest form of compositing. I have 3 examples here. Why? Because truth be told, Midjourney allows you to input images with no text prompts, and it will give you images back. Okay, so I'm doing this as a test to show you what may be coming down the line. We'll see. So I've got 3 images. I'm going to explain what they are. This is the actual scene. It's a JPEG processed from a raw file. It's a beautiful building. I didn't design this, but it's at the University of British Columbia. It's the Student Union building. Awesome. Okay. I love the left half actually better than the right half. So what I did was I'm gonna crop the left half, and I'm gonna flip it horizontally, and I'm gonna put it together. So that's a photograph. It's a composite. By the way, well, I'll tell you this in just a second. Here's another one. The ceiling. Ceiling in this particular picture, it's a very complex building, but it's pretty cool. I like the lower left quadrant. Okay, the left quadrant, quarter. And so I'm going to take that and produce it 4 times. Here we go. All right. So the story I wanted to tell you was that I work with a lot of engineers. I did when I was an architect, right? And I have to befriend the engineers. So I would tell them that if a building looks great, but doesn't really work, like what is this building? What does this work for? What's the logic in this? If it looks great and it doesn't work, it's probably designed by an architect. Oh, they love hearing that. Okay, that's how I bond with engineers. But in any event, that's the second image. Again, a composite. The third one is this stairway. This stairway is unbelievable. It's literally a football field in length. No kidding. That's taken with a very wide angle 9mm lens. So it's like distorted. Well, like what isn't distorted, except it looks like goes on forever. So I took the right half. It's the vertical piece in the middle. Okay, I took the right half and flipped it, and I like that, except it's so skinny. I wanted to make the stair more grand. So sometimes you can distort architecture and people wouldn't know that it's distorted. I mean, if my wife was in that first picture coming down the stairs, I probably would be divorced, okay? But the point is, in this case, I love this. I mean, this stairway is quite amazing. Can you imagine, like you could be walking down the stair. I don't know, maybe you might be announcing yourself want to run for president or something. I have no idea. In any event, take those 3 images. I put them into Midjourney because those were real photographs, okay? I got this back as one option. Crazy stuff. I then, by the way, you probably know what hallucination is. It's an experience involving the apparent perception of something not present. Perfect for AI, okay? Here's another example. I got all these different images from putting in those 3. Look at that ceiling. Oh my goodness. And quite amazing stuff. So I'm close to winning an award. Potentially, I'm making the story up. Close to winning an award, and the judges want to see, look at that on the top. For all potential winning images, the director of competitions may require an entrant to provide all supporting images used in creating a composite image. Okay, so look at, I have the 3 original raw files. I have the composited JPEG photos in my possession. They're all authored by me. No prompts were used to create the final images. The above images were used to create the resulting composited scenes. Are the 5 images presented previously, the ones I just showed you, are they going to be considered photographic composites? Oh, if so, who's the author? Do I get some credit? Can I copyright this? I don't have an answer for you. I wouldn't do this, but I'm just showing you the kind of games that are going to be played to try to cheat the system. Not by 99 and 9/10 of your camera club. It probably won't happen in your club, but I tell you what, in some competitions, there's always somebody who's playing games. Okay. Here's one more I'm going to show you. Now, people would look at this. This is from the 3 original images I showed you. They would argue this is deep fake distortion. That's not a positive comment. Another way to describe it is artistic self-expression. I don't know. I'm just saying we can play with words. But I have a quote I want to show you that helps me sleep at night. Okay, this is from Richard Avedon. Some of you have heard of him, a famous portrait and fashion photographer, sadly no longer with us. But his quote is, "The photograph is not a likeness. The moment an emotion or fact is transformed into a photograph is no longer a fact, but an opinion. There's no such thing as inaccuracy in a photograph. All photographs are accurate. None of them is the truth." Okay, that's powerful statement, and it's true. So here's another circular fisheye lens. That's a photo. I took it with my camera and lens, and this is in Texas. It's the Capitol building of Texas, the largest Capitol building in the U.S. That's in Texas are very proud of saying that, right? Except for the Capitol building in Washington D.C. So I teach spherical photography, so I can be inside of a sphere. I take a fisheye lens, I point it north, south, east, and west, 4 pictures, put it in software, and then I can, instead of having to scan around it as if I'm moving things, I can have it put as a photograph on flat paper, if that makes sense. There's a word for that. Like you've seen pictures of the globe of the world. The world is, I'm one of those that believe the earth is round. Okay, but it's a sphere, and you can show it flat. So that's why it's that shape. But that's a photograph. This is using like polar coordinates in Photoshop. It's a filter. So that's just Chicago skyline. And I made it into like a ring. I'm playing. Playing is okay. Back to AI. This is a great quote from another commercial photographer. It's a blessing and a curse in one nifty package. That's a great way to describe it. There's some very exciting things about it, and there's some really, I think, curse. I'll put it that way. But I like this. I mean, it's not a real photograph. We haven't talked about people. So I teach street photography. That's photographs, candid photographs of people in urban settings. So that's a real photograph. That's in Havana, Cuba. And here's another one in Antigua, Guatemala. I love old buildings. I love buildings that are disintegrating. I think because when I look in the mirror, that's kind of like what I'm seeing, okay? Old and disintegrating. So I can put those 2 photos into Midjourney, and I get this. Now, when I show you the results of what I'm getting out of the AI, I'm not going into Photoshop afterwards and tweaking things. Like, for instance, you see this guy's lip. This is just a little bit weird here, I think. I could be wrong. But my point is, I'm purposely not, if I'm not going to Photoshop. If I was a retoucher, oh my gosh, it's fantastic. What you can do in Photoshop. It's amazing. But that's what they're doing to make their AI look even better, which is fine. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. I'm trying to show you the results right out of the program. So that's one. Here's another one. This one I call scary good because I can't really find any fault with this one. I wish I could. Is this AI art? Is it a machine-generated graphic? It's not a photograph. Not in my definition of a photograph. Not that it's bad. It's artistic. Fine. But it's not a photograph, in my opinion. So here's the thing. They're coming out with there are programs that are coming out, I mentioned this earlier on, to try to tell people so that you could know if it's real or not. There's a program called AI or Not. That's the name of it. It's free. Generative AI art is everywhere, and you may not always know you're looking at images created with an algorithm as opposed to that of a human. This is a quote from the program. They're marketing the program. When I say marketing, it's free right now. AI or Not promises to be the best performing software to recognize if art is AI generated or human made. Awesome. I'm saying to myself, I love that. I'm going to test it for you. Just a moment. At the same time, Decrypt magazine has a title here, Researchers Pitch Immunizing Images Against Deep Fake Manipulation, with a concluding paragraph that says, while some deep fake detection methods are more effective than others, no single method is foolproof. Just remember that. Okay. Here's an example. This is using Photoshop's generative fill. This will change everything in this article in F-stoppers. So on the left is the actual photo. Woman is using Photoshop's generative fill to create a hospital selfie. Now, here's the thing. The story is she's trying to get out of going to work for a couple of days. So she's in her living room, puts up her the victory sign or the peace sign, whatever that is. I should know because I went to Berkeley for a master's. And by the way, I do remember everything that happened. I was there in the 60s, which, I honestly think I do remember most of the things that happened. Anyway, thing is, so she put herself into the Photoshop. She highlighted or put the marching ants around the pillow and the background. Okay, left her head, her hair, and her hand. And she got the picture on the right, or the image on the right. So I'm asking, is this a jovial joke or a devious deception? You don't have to answer that right now. But you can imagine, I don't know if that's good. It's fun, but there's issues. So DP review, generative fill in Photoshop beta. Warning, this is controversial. It's not X-rated, guys. Don't get nervous. Here's what you can do with generative fill in Photoshop. And it's a beta program. Generally, I would not recommend you playing with a beta program, except Photoshop has made a separate program. You can download it and use it, and you keep your original Photoshop program. So they're both on your computer. Keep them separate. So that so far has worked. What it does, what generative fill does, is it can replace items and areas in a photo called in painting. It can extend the canvas, sometimes called out painting. It can insert or remove objects. Okay, and you can do all of the above, all or any of the above, with and without text prompts. So you don't need text prompts, but you can also use text prompts. So I'm going to show you some examples of what I think should be called generative effects as opposed to generative fill. And you may say, why, Rick, why do you keep changing names? Well, I don't know. It is an effect. I know they're not going to change the name for me, by the way, but I want you to think of it as an effect, okay? Which you may want to use. But I don't think I'll show you what I think. It turns into mixed media, okay? Mixed media is an honest to goodness art form. So if you have part photograph and part AI, it's fine. It's not a photograph, it's mixed media, that's okay. So here's what we're gonna do. This is a scene that I made that I photographed in Lisbon, Portugal. Awesome bridge. I got there at low tide. I wanted to get there, and I didn't have boots. So I couldn't walk out there. So I stayed where I was, and I figured, I'll crop it, because I don't like the foreground. So, but I wanted initially to get the reflection of the bridge. I got a nice sky. I can't complain about the sky, okay? So here's what I did. I made a selection around everything below the bridge. That's the yellow dash thing, okay? And I did put in a text prompt called reflective water. That's what I put in. Then I clicked on the button on Photoshop, And that's what I got. Gonna go back. That's what I got. Not bad. Now, I really think, I thought at the time, it's almost too, I don't know. I think it'd be better if there was some foreground, some weight at the bottom, like maybe rocks. Okay, foreground rocks right at the bottom. Maybe they're water washed because of the tide, because it's an ocean. Okay, so I put in foreground rocks and I selected that area, and whew, well, now that's not bad. That's not bad. Could I do better? I don't know. You know what? The picture is just a tiny bit heavy on the left. It's a little bit lighter on the right. Maybe there's something on that rock on the right. Okay, like maybe a pelican. I don't know. Oh, yes, 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 yes. So that's one example. So you know what I did? I put it into that special program, and it said that it was generated by a human. So it didn't do well. It didn't do well on this one. Generative AI is called generative because the AI creates something that didn't previously exist. Okay. Generative AI uses machine learning to process a huge amount of visual or textual data, much of which is scraped from the internet, and then determines what things are most likely to appear near other things. Generative AI is not sentient. That means it cannot perceive or feel things. That's part of the reasons why the Copyright Office so far is saying, no, it's not copyrightable. Now, I think photography, arguably, is a generative art. Every scene we choose to record with intent and then potentially edit with intent is a purposeful act generated from the enormous database of our own life experiences as perceived and absorbed via our human senses, and then expressed via our human feelings and emotions. I know that's a long sentence, but that's what art is. Okay. This is a photograph that I'm very happy with. It's a real photograph. I took this in Portugal as well, along the ocean. This is a beautiful village called the Zenhas do Mar. Great light, golden hour light in the evening. So I thought, well, okay, what are we going to do here? What if I, could it be better? It's a short exposure. It's not a long exposure, obviously, which would be another possibility. But what I did was I selected the ocean and the beach, okay, with the marching ants, just freehand on a laptop. So nothing. This is amazing. The program is so good, unfortunately, that it can actually pick that out if you just put a general selection around it. Then I thought, well, what with that selection? What if it was a stormy sea? That could be kind of cool. That could be kind of cool. Look at that. I had to click that shutter just at the right time. Of course, that's fake, but there's an example. So I've got, what is that? 20-30% of the image is AI. Whoa. Let's keep going. What about a hillside forest? Look at that. What, top of a mountain? That's kind of cool. How about a lakeside garden? Something more calming. I love reflective water and, lots of growies. We say growies in architecture world. Lots of plant life. Oh, yeah. Look at, on all these images, notice how the light on the added part is working with the scene. The direction of the light, the quality of the light. I did not process anything. Once I processed the original image, which I showed you, okay, I just click on the button that says AI. I put in a text prompt. I admit that, right? And just gave you what it spit out. Actually gives you 3 choices, and you can get 3 more and 3 more and 3 more if you want. Desert. Desert. Okay, I gotta do one more. You know, I used to have to work with developers. Now, if you're a developer, I love you, that's fine. But in general, you know what the developer would want? He would say, well, I want more housing. I gotta sell more, I want to sell more product, make more money. Yes. Get ready for this. Look at that. The developer would hug me, he'd hire me for another project. You got the idea. I'm learning Canadian. Okay, it's mixed media. Maybe it's synthetic imaging. Synthetic imaging is kind of not a put down, but mixed media is an honest to goodness discipline. So I'm kind of liking that term because I'm not looking to be upset anybody. I appreciate art. I started out as a musician. I studied drawing and painting. I became an architect, an urban designer. Now I'm a teacher of photography. I've been photographing for 60 years. I love art of all types. Here's one. We're going to do outpainting with no prompt. No prompt. That's the original photograph. It's taken in Vancouver. It's of a garden scene. I like it. I'm not saying it's an award-winning photograph. That's not the idea. Just it's a real photograph. Get ready. I'm going to use Photoshop's Beta Generative Expand with no text prompts. I even look at the shadows that are created. Look at the direction of the light. Who would know that half of this picture, maybe more than half, when you add up all the boundary, is AI generated? There's the original scene. Okay, I'm talking with the dashed line. Okay. Oh, wildlife. I know there's some wildlife photographers out there. I would like to say I went to the jungles of somewhere, but no. This is in an arboretum. And on the left, I'm going to fill it in with no text prompt. On the right, I'm going to put in photographer just for fun. I just wrote down, I put in the prompt photographer on the right side. So, you know, the parrot is smiling. And some of you might know the name. I don't even know if it's a boy or a girl. I don't even know where to look on this type of animal. Okay, let's keep going. A couple more here. Well, I got some more words. Just put up with the words. They're important. Seeing is believing has already not been the case for various forms of fine art and portrait photography. You know, multiple exposures and intentional camera movements, and you know, that doesn't mean it has to be seeing is believing. Okay, seeing will no longer be believing without verification for news, travel, event, and street photography, among others. Okay, photography itself as an art form will no longer be believable without verification. At the rate we're going is what I'm suggesting. Photography will in many cases merge with generative AI features as a mixed media art form. This is my opinion. A generative AI art, like computer art, will emerge as a separate and distinct art form unto itself. That's my hope. Computer art, I love it. I could love generative AI as well as an art form. I'm talking about it where you needed a text prompt. It's different. Talking about it outside the boundaries. This is not, some of you are thinking, well, what's wrong? I use content-aware fill. Yes, so do I. And I'll talk about content-aware fill. It's not the same as generative AI. ChatGPT, we haven't talked about ChatGPT. We're not going to go into it. That's another whole talk. It's complex. Is a specific implementation of generative AI explicitly for conversational purposes. Okay, with verification required for sure, by the way. Okay, here's an example of why you need verification. You may know this. In New York, two lawyers were fighting a case in court, defending their client, and they were using ChatGPT, calling out cases to justify their position. the judge got totally ticked off. Ultimately, just recently, fined them $5,000. But the Law Society actually wants to disbar them, so it's a serious thing. And the lawyers are blaming ChatGPT for inaccurate information. That's their excuse. This is like, this is nuts. There are cases of people. I'm not making this up. There are cases of people using ChatGPT for medical advice. Guys, don't do that. I'm serious. I come from a family of physicians. If you want to use ChatGPT, use it, but get it verified by somebody who's supposed to know what they're doing and maybe has liability. Okay. Quick story. I have a friend whose house was broken into. The burglar came in through a skylight and actually did damage to himself because he fell through the skylight. And he is suing the homeowner to say that the skylight was not strong enough. It wasn't a wire frame skylight, wire frame glass. It was just regular glass. I mean, it's unbelievable. People are nuts. And I know none of you are. I'm just saying, it's a crazy world we're in right now. So you saw this before. I'm suggesting photography will, in many cases, merge with generative AI features as a mixed media art form. That's my position here. So I'm going to show you a couple more examples. This is one of my buildings. I designed this building. It's in British Columbia. It's in the capital city of Victoria. It's a hotel. Okay. That was the photo. I couldn't back up because there was a lot of traffic and buses and stuff. I used a vertical shot, and that was it. So now I did put in one text prompt to fill the frame, because when it's a movie, the movie frames are all the same ratio. You don't jump around like you do in photography. I like to keep it all the same. So I put in the word garden in Photoshop's. I got this. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Then I thought, well, what if I keep going? But no more text prompts. Okay, let's just keep going. Oh, I make a panorama. Yes, did that. I figured, well, now I love panoramas, but they're long and skinny or tall and thin. If it's a vertorama, there's actual name, vertorama. Okay. And I want to fill the frame. I want to show, I'm doing a slideshow here for you guys. So no text prompts. Really, look at that. Crazy, amazing. That's the original picture. It's almost, how it's like nothing left or very little. How about interiors? This is the Denver airport. Maybe some of you have been there. It's a big hub. Fancy ceiling, roof structure. I want to fill the frame. No text prompt. Here goes. How many people would say, oh, you cheated? I can tell. This is not easy to tell that it's a text prompt. There might be something, if you look closely, you could find something and think, wait, this doesn't look right, but nah. This is just, and remember, people don't look at images that long. You guys may, because you're photographers. Most people don't. Here's another example in Portugal. This is a beautiful site. And at high tide, there's water in here. If you ever want to go and explore areas where there's low tide, I can guarantee you I'll show you areas of low tide. I am batting very low percentage for high tide scenes. In any event, I put the marching ants around the sand, and I did type in reflective water. Here we go. In Photoshop, you can do a lot of things in Photoshop. You can flip a scene, flip a portion of a scene, and make it reflective. And you can create it, kind of make it look like ripples in the water, but you cannot do what this is. This is actually more realistic than what you'd get in Photoshop in terms of what water does, how it still water in this case, right? It's not moving water, how it can deal with reflections. So amazing. I'm just showing these examples. I got a couple more. Determining the authenticity of a photograph. Okay, The nature of neural networks is that they are probabilistic networks rather than deterministic networks. The upside of this is that many variants can be created but are not predictable. This lack of predictability makes it difficult to develop AI image recognition methods. And the goal of finding a perfect fake AI image detector is not possible, okay? Although we can hope to reduce the number of false positives and false negatives. It's a friend of mine, university professor, been studying this stuff for years. That's his comment. Here we are in Cuba. This is the transportation in old Havana. I couldn't back up. I didn't have a lens wide enough. I cut off the bottom of the front wheel. I cropped. I didn't crop. The picture is too tight to the top. It's not breathing, the vehicle. So, and the guy's looking behind him. What's he looking at? So I figured, well, I'm going to add some to the top, to the bottom, and to the right. And I'll put a photographer in the middle of the street because it's only photographers that would stand in the middle of the street to take a picture. Then I thought, well, maybe the guy's looking back because he's having his picture taken by another photographer photographing him, the driver of the vehicle. Anyway, just showing you the possibilities. This is an original photograph. Again, in Portugal. I obviously like Portugal. Employing generative fill. So there's 50 people in this picture, okay? 50. What I'm going to do is I want to change the building on the left, that pink building. I'm going to change the shape of it, and I'm going to take out all the people with a text prompt. Look at that. All I had to do, I circled all the people, not individually, in groups. I isolated the left part. I can't remember what I put in. I think I just put in, I didn't put anything. There was no text prompt on that. And that's amazing. Why is it amazing? Well, I wanted to isolate this lady, but I didn't want to lose the bench. I don't want to lose the door behind these people. So I had a circle around these people, one around her, one around him, and one around this group here on the lower right. I don't know if you can see my cursor. And then one over here, this complex area with the awnings. And I mean, look at the pavement, how intricate it is. And it's still there. It hangs together. It's hard to imagine. I'm impressed. Photograph. I told you about street photography. A lot of people are nervous about putting their camera in somebody's face. I understand. So I teach street photography for shy photographers. Okay. So walk behind somebody and click. That's what I did here. That was the picture. So then I thought, well, I'm going to see if this is in the way. So no text prompts. Okay. No text prompts. I put a circle around the top of his head. So I got this. I'm happy with that. Then I clicked. I decided to do outpainting. I got this. Look at it. You got to, the whole guy's there all of a sudden. He wasn't there before. But look at the ground. It looks like it's just freshly poured concrete. It looks like he's going to leave footprints as he walks along in the wet concrete. Then I thought, okay, I'm going to do a text prompt. I put marching ants around the ground plane. Generally, freehand again, not accurate, just in general. And I said, wet, like it had just, it had rained, but I put wet. Look at that. That's cool. So I'm not using this as a photograph, but gives me an idea. Next time it's raining and I'm in some beautiful place like this, and it's raining and I'm going, oh gosh, I wanted a nicer day. I'm going to wait till the rain stops and I'm going to run out there and I'm going to follow people. Because you can't go wrong with the reflections. Like, they're pretty good. They're amazing. That's the original picture, minus his hat. Okay, what is this? I think it's mixed media. Other people think it's synthetic imaging or machine-generated graphics, maybe composited pictorial, maybe an artificially intelligent art. Maybe it's AI art. By the way, Adobe is now starting to use that term, AI art instead of AI photograph. Interesting. By the way, Photoshop was originally designed for graphic arts, of which photography is a major portion of the graphic arts. But they're realizing this AI stuff, this new text generated stuff or non-text out painting is not necessarily a photograph. Some people say it should be a collage. I thought, well, you're going to use collage. Well, let's call it a photo montage. Well, how about hodgepodge? I made that up. That means a confusing mixture. So if you don't like artistic inspiration, how about artistic impression or interpretation or introspection or inventiveness or artistic innovativeness or artistic ingenuity or artistic imagination? Maybe artistic interference. Depends on what you want. But it's worthwhile thinking about names. So here's my latest, my second to the latest. I'm going to show you two more. So, okay. You've heard of Stephen Wilkes. He has this incredible series of Day to Night. Gets up on a cherry picker, takes hundreds of pictures with an associate, comes back to his studio, has a bunch of people in the studio. They're going through all parts of the image, deciding what to keep and what to not, because the pictures are all the same picture, same frame. Oh, I know I'm talking too fast because I'm nervous about my time. But I figured I'm going to do, instead of day to night, I'm going to do dawn to dusk. So I have a picture of Vancouver. On the left is first light. It's the north face of Vancouver. And there's a mountain range behind me. So by the time the sun's up, this is taken on the summer solstice. The sun is the most northern it'll be all year. It took me 6 years to get that picture because it was cloudy or there were boats in the water or whatever. Okay. The one on the right is the evening of the summer solstice, last light. And then I isolated the middle part with the marching ants and I clicked no text prompt. And I get what I'm calling dawn to dusk. That's pretty cool. And finally, that one, this program that's supposed to detect fake photographs came up with this prompt, with not a prompt, but this note that says controversial content, AI detection. Whoa. And then right after that, I thought, this is good. I'm glad that it knows that it's not real. At least the whole thing is not real. Then this thing, again, this image is generated by a human. Okay, so I investigated this. And the comment that came back is when they wrote the original program, they didn't consider generative fill. They were dealing with only text prompted photos from like Midjourney, Firefly, those kinds of things. Who knows? Just telling you the state of the art, it's in flux. As fast as they can come up with programs that detect AI, there are ways to cheat the system. Okay. I have a few more minutes, right? Sandy, did you go home or you still? Do I have a few minutes?
Yeah, it is 9:30, so
didn't start until like 10 after.
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
I will go quick. And I'll tell you guys, I hope, obviously, if you don't want to stay, it's okay. But there's a message here that I just want you to understand. And this is written by the director of competitions for Canada, for the Canadian Association of Photographic Arts. Okay. Now I know it's Canada, but you can learn from other countries because everyone's grappling with this. In the context of photographic competitions, the general rule is that submitted images should represent what the photographer captured in the original scene. Any manipulations or post-processing should be limited to basic adjustments that do not significantly alter the content or add elements that were not present in the original composition. AI-generated images or features that add elements not captured by the photographers, such as outcropping, in other words, completely changing or adding parts of the image, or generative fill, which would typically be considered as significant alterations and would not be accepted into a CAPA competition. The Photoshop feature of content awareness, great way to describe it, content awareness, is generally considered permissible in many photographic competitions because it does not involve explicitly adding elements that weren't in the original image. Content-aware fill uses surrounding information to intelligently fill in selective areas and remove unwanted elements, but does not introduce new elements into the image. This is his statement. I'm just sharing that with you because a lot of times people say, what about content-aware fill? You know, we all accepted it for dust spots. And then it moves into other things and a little creep, but it's always usually not adding new, absolutely new things. I'm going to skip this for now. I'm going to read the Photographic Society of America. This is your group. I'm just going to read the big type. This is the statement in the US of artificial intelligence, image creation, and ownership in all sections of the exhibition. This is for exhibitions, and it's actually, if they have, I don't know if they have competitions, but images must originate as photographs made by the entrant. Images created in whole or in part by image creation software, frequently called AI images, are not allowed. Any person submitting or attempting to submit a totally AI-generated image that does not begin with a light capture from the maker, okay, shall be prohibited from PSA for a period of from 3 to 5 years. Yes, that's the US. Don't hold back. Let's put them in prison. That's okay. Just telling you what you guys are dealing with. Maybe you know that already. Here's my thought. It's not that advances in AI graphics should be feared. The fear is that the resulting graphic art will be believed as photographs generated straight out of the camera. Okay? My friend, this doctor who has more initials after his name than anybody that I know, the main danger, as I see it, is the homogenization of images where the mechanization of the image creation process overrides vision and creativity. Because you're just putting in a name and clicking on something and something comes up. That's the argument, okay? So here's my preliminary conclusion. The infusion of artificial intelligence in photography is not going away. It's going to continue to blossom. Most everything generative AI has so far announced, we've been able to previously do, granted with great technique and available time. Human resistance to change is not going away. As we experience the potentially good, bad, and ugly impacts of AI in photography, try to look for how you can learn from and be inspired. Specifically, in the quest for photography as an art form that contributes to our mental and physical health and well-being, individually and collectively. That, folks, those two lines at the bottom, that my parents would have said that's motherhood and apple pie. Remember that phrase? That means excellence or ideal dream. Now we would say parenthood and apple pie to be, got to be up with the times. So this is apple pie. This is the input was a mouth-watering slice of apple pie with the overall pie in the background. Aspect ratio of 16 to 10, version 5 of generative AI of Midjourney. Yeah, it looks good. Can I make it better? Sure. What do I add? Ice cream. Whoa, now that's getting tasty. This is kind of my dessert. We're almost done. I'm not an apple pie guy. I like cheesecake. Now, if I was a food photographer that earned a living on photographing food, I'd be nervous or pissed off or whatever. I'd be concerned. This is graphic realism. Fantastic for graphic realism. It's just not a photograph. Okay. Here's my current conclusion. For the foreseeable future, my strong suggestion is to not blindly trust generative AI for ethical responses or facts or answers or truths. Realism heuristics, that's a problem-solving methodology, confirms that we overtrust images, okay? Rather, consider embracing AI as a generator of ideas that can potentially inspire creativity throughout the entire process of photography. Think of AI and photography as a group of features or attributes. Use your own human intelligence to determine how best to take advantage of those features or attributes. I can sum up the entire presentation in one word. It's a 4-letter word: play. Okay? Research, exploration, having fun. I've been married for 53 years. On August 20th was my anniversary. I sent out this announcement, okay? I quoted song lyrics from Irving Berlin. When I'm worried and I can't sleep, I count my blessings instead of sheep. and I fall asleep counting my blessings. Okay. It's a photograph. Everything there is an honest to goodness photograph. And I was getting comments back like bad, like a sheep. So I decided, and one guy said, it looks like the sheep are kind of like not, they're out of the picture. They're not like, it's a different scene. Of course it is. So what I did was I put a marching ants here, and I put sheep in bed, and I got this. This is my look at the paws on the beach, on the sheep. Sheep. I'm dying here. And I'm holding my wife's hand. I mean, this is perfect. Look at the color inside of his ear. The blood vessels in a sheep are very close to the surface. And that's why it matches the sheep in the background. It's amazing. That's one click. Look at the lighting. It picks up everything. Photography plus generative AI art. It's mixed media. Final slide. We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. That's a quote from George Bernard Shaw. Great quote. That actually is an AI generated graphic. I know because the original picture was an actual photograph. I've converted it to be in sync with my presentation. Thank you, guys. I have a whole bunch of different topics. I'm hoping to be able to give this presentation to other camera clubs. I know it's being taped. I would hope that you enjoy looking at the tape if you want the video, but don't share it with your club, because I would like you to invite me to speak at your club so I can put shoes on my kid. Okay, I'm going to quit. Thank you so much. I'm going to hopefully be able to see if anybody's still there.
Yes,
Stop sharing.
we are
Oh,
still.
guys. Okay, thank you. It's hard when I'm not looking at anybody. I'm just trying to remember what to say. And,
I
whoa,
hear you.
Oh,
thanks for being so patient. Any questions?
well, first of all, I want to thank you, Rick. I mean, you are so inspiring for me. I mean, not only do you teach me, but I find myself checking my mute button to make sure it's on, because I'm laughing so hard.
Me too.
Belly laughter. So I'm
You
entertained.
missed the laughter.
Yeah.
Here's
So
that.
anyway, I thank you, Rick. And I do want to open it up to others
Very
for
kind.
questions.
Yeah, guys.
So
So
turn
Rick,
on
what I wanted to do is just explain that there was so much text going back and forth between a number of us. You really generated a lot of discussion, and probably not just tonight but moving forward. One of the things I wanted to ask first was what would you consider as AI generated images going too far for a camera club to use, I guess?
Oh, well, I think that anything up until this latest craze, which will probably turn into a regular thing on generative AI, where you can put in a text prompt. Okay, so I use Photoshop, and I use Lightroom, and I understand from Sandy that that your club, I know there's different clubs here, but the Baltimore club has put out a notice to say, quote, AI word generated software is not permitted for the creation or editing of images. And I'm going to suggest humbly that you consider changing a few of those words, because AI generated software, that's Photoshop now. Okay.
Yeah,
So
we put that up in March, and so now you know how much the technology has changed since March. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm suggesting you consider saying text prompted AI is not permitted. Or is not permitted creation of images. Text prompted. That for me, so that's where I draw the line, because arguably you're not able to convey your own emotions and feelings. And some people think, well, I don't know, I don't feel. When I teach fine art photography, I suggest you consider naming the image before you click the shutter. And people look at me like, are you kidding me? I had to think about all the settings I got. And I say, well, okay, you can do it later, but if you're not feeling anything, why are you even clicking the shutter? Now, this is for fine art, where you're supposed to express your own feelings and emotions. So, did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Any others?
Who else has a question?
I have a question for Rick.
Please. Yeah.
You use the term mixed media,
Yes.
and I know that PPA, a lot of the photographers use mixed media, like Richard Sturtevant, Sandra Bryant, where they create a photo, but they may bring pieces of images in to help create that piece of work. How do you look at that in reference to AI?
Are you talking about compositing?
Yes.
Compositing, if they're all photographs, it's still a photograph. It's there's a genre called a composited photograph.
Mm-hmm.
No, but if part of the compositing involves, I don't know, other media, like cloth or AI generated images, then it could be great. But I'm suggesting it's mixed media.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's all photographs, it can be awesome. There's some fantastic stuff being done with compositing.
Well, the reason why I asked that question, because there are some camera clubs that use mixed media as legitimate photographs.
Well,
as far as competition.
yeah, I would suggest that you consider having a category for mixed media. If it's not a photograph. Now, but you have the right to disagree with anything I say, Kenneth, So I'm suggesting it's a photograph if you're recording light. If you're not recording light, wow, that could be fantastic. It could be a drawing, could be oil paint, it could be anything else. But to argue that a text prompt where you can't even identify where the information came from is a photograph is like, that's a stretch.
Yeah, I wasn't really relating to text prompt.
Sorry.
It's like you start off with a photograph. Let's say you're on a beach, and you realize, hey, I need to create some forestry over here. So you bring in another piece of a photograph to create the forestry. It's just like and with those clubs, what they do, they have the original photo, and then they put the composites down the bottom, so you see the whole image.
That's awesome. That is a photograph.
Okay.
A bunch of photographs put together is a composited photograph.
Right. Okay.
So I'm suggesting.
And what is a collage photo?
A collage?
Collage photo versus a composited photo, would you say?
If it's a photograph, if it's all made up of photographs. There are clubs that allow, for instance, sky replacement if the artist or the photographer uses one of their own skies. But if they go online and buy, 50 skies, which you can do, have fun, is it right for a competition? Unless it's an open competition and you announce it at first. Anything goes kind of competition.
In Baltimore Camera Club, you cannot. All of the elements have to be your own images.
Okay. And I'm not here to pass judgment, but most clubs are going that direction. I mean, you have to. I'm just saying, it's going to be an issue for a lot of clubs.
Just a question to jump off of that. I know some other people have a question. What about using generative AI, but it pulls from a pool of your own images?
Well, that's what I was doing. I was thinking That's why I showed you that crazy stuff I did, where you put in images and you get out stuff composited from your own images. Somebody's going to try
You're
that.
saying that it's AI generated because you were not the emotion or manipulator.
Yes, but I'm also saying that I have the original raw files and it's a machine that composited it all, and somebody's going to try to make that case. Let me be blunt. Camera clubs don't want to lose members. And I don't want you to lose members. So I think there's got to be a way where you can incorporate everybody's desires. And if it's I came up with the notion of mixed media art. But I think if it's not 100% photographed by the artist, it's questionable as to whether it should be allowed.
You're really giving us a lot to think about. Thank you. I'll let someone else ask questions.
I don't have answers. I apologize. I don't have like rules. I'm just trying to.
No. This is great. Like we brought good debate here.
I got a question.
Yes.
On the go back to the text prompt thing.
Sure.
Now for all the features that are going to be in Adobe, what about if someone wanted to type in, they have dust spots on their picture?
Yep.
You go in the text box and say remove dust spots, or any other generic editing feature, or
Sure.
is that now taboo, and you should go through and point and click your way versus type in text to do the same thing?
That's a darn good question, Guy.
Wow.
It's a very good question.
See, I look at this whole thing as a tempest in a teapot.
Okay.
I heard these arguments in the 80s when computer synthesizers were actually using real world sounds in their sound banks, and everyone was saying that all the musicians are going to go away.
Right.
Heck, and that didn't happen. Now, some people argue the worst thing that's happened to music the last 25 years might be auto-tune. And that other thing that lets you point and click, and that's a whole nother argument,
Cool
but
songs with attitude.
yeah, and that's a whole nother argument. People who couldn't sing now can almost sing. So I don't know. I see this as that, I have heard, because I'm in the IT business, I have heard some wild stuff over the years of how something was going to do something and we're not going to have jobs. And what you end up, most technology, you got some revolutionary technology, most of it transforms. When I came into the business, you still might have had secretarial pools. That thing is gone, because we got a personal computer sitting on the desk. So we all have that ability to do certain things that we need another human being for. And I just bought a camera a few weeks ago. It's got an AI chip in it. So now it focuses using AI. It can tell the difference between a human being and an insect. I imagine at some point the camera's going to get so smart that I'll be able to that it's going to figure out almost all the stuff that I normally tweak afterwards. And it's going to turn out a JPEG that now when I go to process the raw file, I'm actually going to have a lot more work to do to catch up with the JPEG that it spit out, because the errors that we get now will just not be there because it's going to look at the image and process it better. And I accept that fact because, well, like all of us, I'm getting older. So the more my technology can do for me, the better. That's the way I look at it. But I don't fear it. And but what I want to be able to do is take advantage of the technology to allow me to be more creative without getting bogged down in a lot of details. I don't want to get to the point where it's so much of this, bad, I guess, unpopular tech that's in the program already, then I'm afraid to click a button or do something because I'm violating a club rule. So when the pleasure goes out of this, it is no longer a hobby, it becomes work, and I already have a job.
I agree with you. Guy, you make some very good points.
Irene wants to say
Yeah, I
something.
do. I just have a question, and it's way off of what you're talking about. The Midjourney AI, is that a program that I can
Journey.
locate?
Yeah,
It is a program, and it's called Midjourney,
Mid-Journey, period. It's Mid-Journey.
Midjourney period, and okay, because I have a different application of
Yeah,
want to animate animals that are in my imagination and then turn it into a book. So I have creatures that have stories.
yeah, you're the
Over the
creature.
Oh
years,
yeah.
those stories have been communicated to other people, and people can imagine what these creatures are doing, etc. And I want to be able to turn that into kids' books and other possible. It's a different application, yeah. And I've been waiting for some way to animate what I'm seeing in here.
Oh, it's wonderful.
So-
It's great.
It's kind of crazy. but
Have them
anyhow,
as
I never
have
grew up. I'm
Midjourney
still
as
a
a
little kid.
co-author on your book.
It's an advantage. Don't grow up. That's an advantage.
Actually, can I respond to what Guy said? I think you actually made a lot of really good points, and I think I know Lewis was very, very passionate about it too, about trying to be as creative as possible. I really do think that our society has just gone over to another era, right? With the Chat GPT, just like when we switched from horses to cars, things things change, and but it's interesting. Yeah, I would never want anyone to feel like we're trying to create rules for having rules. I always want to think about equality and access, and I think that we kind of have those rules in there right now so that all the members, so it's not members who only have access and can use that, can, with the click of a button, can make their images look great, and they keep winning week after week. And then you can get people who don't know haven't adapted to it, that just leave. So anyways, I think this is something where we might want to try and make the balance equal for all for a little while, until everyone gets up to speed on the technology, and then we can go. But anyways, I'm open to everybody's thoughts on that.
I think that depends on if people really want to learn, because unfortunately, my experience has been is that you have photographers that they're okay with what they know and they don't want to grow, and so photographers like Guy who want to use programs to make his images better, we shouldn't be penalizing him because he's trying to go beyond his normal skills. That's just my opinion.
Well, I remember when that thing called the calculator was invented, and when I was in school, the calculator had like little bulbs or whatever on it, and then
Having a
that
slide rule.
newfangled liquid crystal display, and then there weren't any personal computers until I was 14 years old, so it's and now we use it for everything. So this is very interesting.
Real quick, Rick, real quick. And part of your presentation was talking about some of the fake information that's on social media. And I think some of these issues with AI is going to be dealt with lawsuits. Personally,
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine a wedding photographer putting up AI generated images of a wedding that he didn't do to get business, and then when a person hires him, can't really shoot a wedding? I see that as a potential lawsuit just waiting to happen, because they use somebody else's images, pretending that they're a professional wedding photographer. And I can see some lawsuits coming from that.
Or they pull from other, images from others to compose. Actually, Rick, you were talking about if you're up to keeping in contact with us, I know we can always try and keep in contact with you and give you information about AI articles. But I think I read this morning, I think that Adobe is getting ahead of some of the others, because it based it on its own images, like it trained it on its own images, and now all these other ones that stole everybody
Like
else's
the noise.
might start to have lawsuits. So there might be some AI generated programs that disappear.
Mhm.
Was that, had you read about that?
Yes, so far there have been a few lawsuits, and they haven't come to any conclusions yet. That's been the issue.
Ah,
Because the
they've
judges
just
said-
started, it hasn't been
the judge
concluded.
said, you have to be more specific. What part of your picture was stolen, and who is it stolen from? And how can you prove that? So that kind of is tough to do.
Yeah, I know Photoshop is looking at with their images, they're looking at in the future to pay the photographers who those images actually belong to, where other programmers, or these other programs, they're not even paying for the copyright. So at
Right.
least Photoshop is moving in the right direction to make sure they compensate the photographer for the work that they've done.
Well, I guess the question is did they copy anything? Because remember, they trained the software on looking at those images. They didn't actually take them bit for bit or pixel for pixel. So that's where the complexity is. These lawsuits have to be processed. If they're going to be processed, they got to be processed on how the technology works. And up till now, it's been cut and dry. If you made a picture and you cut elements of somebody else's copyrighted work and pasted it in without getting compensation, it was easy. Now we have the computers that looked at it and can draw anything
Subtle.
from that. So how you gotta that's going to be complex because they trained the software on the images, but not necessarily took the images into the software.
Photoshop did. Photoshop did. Whenever you have cloud storage through Adobe or Photoshop, they've been using your images all along. So we never knew that. So
Same thing as Facebook. Same thing as Facebook.
Yeah,
I read the fine print. They own your images. They can do whatever they want with it.
Yeah, so they have.
Mel wanted to say.
This is
Go
what.
ahead, Kenny.
This is what.
Mel?
This is what.
Wait. Can Kenny say his last sentence? He's trying to get a sentence out, and then we'll go to Mel.
Yeah. So the photos that are being generated through Photoshop that we send up there, those are the photos that Adobe is willing to pay for in the future for copyright. They already have our photos, and they use those photos to help train their programs like autofill or content aware. They've been using them all along. So now they're looking at, well, if we're using your photos, we should be paying you for them. So when you get into a generative fill, this is where down the road licensing of those photos where people will need to get paid for.
It's also a pretty strategic move on their part because it hasn't been decided whether anybody should pay anything, and they're already ahead.
Right.
But I also think they're doing that as a PR move too, because not everybody's in love with this stuff. So,
Mel?
Yeah.
So
I have a question actually. Is there software out there that you can use your own photos in the text question versus going out to the cloud? Take it from your own personal library?
Well, what I was showing is with Midjourney is a separate program, AI based. They have a relatively new feature where you can put in up to 5 of your own images, 2 to 5, and see what. And what it says is they're going to just use that data for the image. And that's why I showed that example while I was playing around with the hallucinations, series, and what I got back, all the variations. I just showed you a handful of variations. I mean, there's amazing variations that come.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, so if I have the raw files, I have everything is it now, do I that my image? And that's kind of what you're asking.
Yeah.
That hasn't been answered, hasn't been tested.
And like the genie's out of the bottle.
Yeah.
okay, so It is after 10 o'clock our time. I guess it is.
Guys are heroes.
Yeah.
Is there
so-
anything before we go? There are some people who haven't spoken up. I just want to give people who might be introverts a little bit of a
Sure.
one last chance.
Those of you who wake up tomorrow or in the future, anytime, and think, "Oh, I should have asked something I didn't know," you please. I have a policy where if you listen to if you sit through one of my presentations, you can contact me anytime in the future, and I will respond. Okay,
How
and
do we do that?
people say, "Why would you do that?" It's because I'm learning too. You see, you guys will be teaching me. I learn from everybody.
How do we do that?
Oh, Rick at rickhulbertphotography.com. That's in the video. It's in the last slide.
Okay.
And I guess somebody might send out it might already be on your website. I don't even know.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's always on our calendar.
Right.
Sure. I look scary,
On the
but I'm actually
website.
okay there.
You're amazing. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, for the third time, Rick, thank
Okay.
you so much.
Super. You guys
Yes.
are great.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the opportunity.
Great. It was fabulous.
Thank
And thank you all for being here. Good night.
Right, and thank you.
So,
Great job, Rick.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks. Thanks, guys.
it is not goodbye, but au revoir.
Oh, that sounds good. I like it. I like it.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night. Thanks, Guy.